Who you become tomorrow starts with how you show up today. One of my favorite quotes that I have written on my whiteboard right over here in front of me is action must precede action. That's a law of nature. Nothing starts itself. I read that from a book and I have been mesmerized by it and its simplicity ever since. Let's say you're somebody who wants to have really good relationships with people. You want to be the one that knows a lot of people, right? If you don't do this today, it's going to impact tomorrow, right? Because you're not going to know any more people tomorrow if you don't talk to anybody today. If you don't know anybody tomorrow, you're not going to know anybody in 2 days, especially if you don't put in the work tomorrow, right? If you keep not putting in the work tomorrow and the day after that, then in the long term, if you never do this thing, you're never going to find people around you. In the next year, you're going to be in the same spot that you were. So, reversing this around, if today you step into the identity that you want to be and say, okay, in a year's time, I want to have relationships with XYZ, then these are the things you have to do. You have a tangible outcome that you want, and you know the things that you might need to do in order to obtain that. If you think about it, a lot of the things that you may have done in your life has been from action. In fact, everything you have done in your life has been from action. Whether you're an athlete, coming to practice means you have to come to practice, which means you have to act, get in your car, have your parents drive you, go to practice, and actually practice, right? It's an action. However, you can't get to practice without the actual movement of getting to practice. You can't get to practice without getting in your car, without having your parents drive you. You have to go from your house to your practice. And that in between is something that I want to talk to you guys about today. One of the things, and I talked to one of my friends about this, that I've noticed has helped me the most in my journey of self improvement, we'll say journey of self actualization, right? Is the ability to be in my future self's shoes at the current time. Now, what does this mean? You have to act like the person you want to be before you get there. If you're running a business, you have to work very hard in order to get to the point to where you want to go if you want to make a lot of money. For my podcast that you're listening to right now, my best example for you is the ability for me to interview very high caliber people. It's the ability to say, okay, in the future, I want to have this amazing circle of people around me. I want them to be smart. I want them to be successful financially, successful in their marriages, successful with their friends, successful with their, parents, all types of different relationships. So how can I control myself for the future? It's not like there's going to come a day, guys, where you're going to get the things you want without actually working for it. The reason that I say action must precede action is because you need to have the in between that I was talking about. From the person that you are today to the person that you want to become, there's a lot of work that goes in between that. And you need to understand that if you put in the work right now, if you start acting like the person that you know you want to be and know you are going to be, then that's your fast road to success. A lot of people assume that these things they want are going to be given to them. Oh, I deserve this. I've worked hard, so I should get this. But there is no should. The world doesn't owe you anything. You shouldn't get anything. I think being able to be realistic is very important, but understanding that once you are realistic, that is the ground and you can move up from there. Being realistic is important because you need to understand, like I said, the world doesn't owe you anything. You're not going to magically get given everything you want. You're not going to win the lottery one day. And let me also tell you, I genuinely believe if you win the lottery, you're going to waste all of your money. Because if you don't know the skills of managing your money, then it's not going to help you to begin with. In the same way, if I don't know how to manage high caliber relationships, if I don't know how to be able to hold myself up to a higher standard when talking to these people, then when it's given to me, I get lucky, right? Let's pretend that I won the lottery of successful people and then some guy over here that's successful wants to be friends with me. How am I going to do it if I don't know how to manage it? Because right now I'm in the trenches. I'm doing my podcast. I'm, reaching out to people. I'm talking to people, and a lot of it falls through. And a lot of times, I might want one good relationship with this guy, and it might not work out, right? And especially like for the podcast, having a good relationship with your guests is very important. But it's making those small mistakes so that as time goes on, you evolve and you get better. Think about it like this. If you are, which if you're watching this, I think you already are like this. But if you're somebody who can see themselves having better things in the future, who wants to work very hard, who wants to be successful, you want the journey. You want all these tough experiences. You don't want everything given to you as much as you do, right? As much as you might want to say, "Oh my God, like I've been working so hard and the thing's not it's not showing up in the way I want it to. I've had this podcast already for 2 years. Why can't I just have XYZ on my show? Why can't I hit 100,000 streams monthly and just not have to worry about money for the rest of my life?" You might want that, but I guarantee you, if you put in the work to get that and then you get it, you're gonna appreciate that 1,000 times more than something being handed to you. I've used this example on my podcast before, but if you find a $5 bill laying on the ground, you're not going to value it as much as if you find the same $5 bill and it flies away from you, and then you chase it a mile down the block, and somebody takes it and they say, "Oh, no, 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 I found this." And then you have to, you know, I don't know, talk to him, and then you get this $5 back because you proved that you were the one that found it, and then you got it back and you're like, "Wow, okay, I worked hard for it." One thing that I learned doing door to door over the summer was how hard it is to make money, how valuable it is. And being given that opportunity, to be honest, is very, very tough job ahead. Being given that opportunity has allowed me to be able to say, okay, well, this is not going to be an easy path. Making money is a lot harder than I thought, but now I understand. Now I can be realistic and say, okay, I'm not going to make $1 million tomorrow, but I can start assessing and actually taking in the skills that I know could help me make $1 million in the future, which again might not be, oh, this one thing. It's like, hey, I got to work extremely hard for the next 5 years. I got to work extremely hard for the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. If you can be realistic like that, if you can say, without saying in a sentence, okay, I'm going to make $100,000 in the next month. Well, I haven't even made $100 in a month, right? So how am I going to make 100,000? Preparing yourself with those skills. But again, the only way to prepare yourself with those skills is being in the trenches, is having this in between of being the person that you know you want to be, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's in business. For me, something that I want to be is I want to be a good friend for other people. So I realized it's not going to happen overnight. I can't just like flip on and then start texting all of my friends and having them expect to have good relationships with me. So what I did is I started texting my friends. I started setting reminders saying, "Hey, text XYZ, ask them how this was," because the real relationships are built on real connection. It's not about, "Hey, you know, I'm going to text 100 of my friends right now and then not worry about it for the next year and then text them again," because they're gonna think you want something from them. That's not real connection. Really quickly, over there in the back, you can see my book that I just published, Talk Deeper: How to Turn Everyday Conversations into Life-Changing Connections. Grab an order, whether you like physical copies, ebooks, or audiobooks, all is available. Click the link in the bio, click the show notes, whatever you're listening to this on. I think you'll find it very valuable. Let's think about this on a long-term scale. If you want to be this ideal person, let's say you're somebody who wants to have really good relationships with people. You want to be the one that knows a lot of people, right? If you don't do this today, it's going to impact tomorrow, right? Because you're not going to know any more people tomorrow if you don't talk to anybody today. If you don't know anybody tomorrow, you're not going to know anybody in 2 days, especially if you don't put in the work tomorrow, right? If you keep not putting in the work tomorrow and the day after that, then in the long term, if you never do this thing, you're never going to find people around you. In the next year, you're going to be in the same spot that you were. So, reversing this around, if today you step into the identity that you want to be and say, okay, in a year's time, I want to have relationships with XYZ, then these are the things you have to do. You have a tangible outcome that you want, and you know the things that you might need to do in order to obtain that. Putting it in this perspective makes it a lot easier for me because I start to understand how my micro efforts affect my macro results, if that makes sense. My micro efforts of not doing the thing affects my macro results of not getting the thing that I want. With this being said, I want you guys to think about something, maybe a goal you have in your life, and understand and think about in your brain how you can help yourself start working towards that today. If I hadn't put in all the work in my podcast and the people that I've spoken to, I would never have imagined 2 years ago when I started that I would have conversations with people like, Sunil Gupta, Derek Sivers, Gary Ridge, all those people. I would never imagine. But the thing is, I did the work. I had the effort, and within this big goal of my podcasting, I had a smaller goal within podcasting of, okay, now that I have these people, now that I have these guests, how can I maximize my relationship with them? I don't want these people to be somebody that I call or text every year and a half and say, hey, oh, crazy story, but I need $50,000. No, I want to say, hey, happy Thanksgiving. I hope everything's good. I hope your family's well. People are loving our episode together. Boom, that's it. Very simple, right? So within this big goal, I have a smaller goal of nurturing my relationships. So within this, I am doing two of the things that I want for my future. I want to grow my podcast in the future, and I want to be able to nurture relationships. The person who doesn't have a podcast and doesn't talk to a lot of people is not going to be as much of a people person and not as good with people as somebody who has a podcast like me and is purposefully trying to nurture their connections, right? So understanding these two extremes of there's somebody that is hitting this goal and somebody who isn't, there's got to be an in between of this thing. And that means that The only actual thing that matters is the effort that you put into something. It's the reps that you put in, right? There's nuances where, okay, when you put in this effort, how much leverage does it get you compared to this? If I reach out to only coaches, do I have more leverage on that as opposed to reaching out to UFC fighters, right? Leverage is something you can learn to understand later, but in the beginning, this is something Alex Hormozy said that I thought was very interesting because I'm kind of currently at the first stage, but the first stage is you're pushing very hard. You're using a lot of effort in order to get maybe one rep and maybe two, but then in the future, you start to get really good at it, or maybe you hire people and they do everything for you. So in the beginning, you've got to be the one to put in these reps until, maybe you can find somebody else to do it, or maybe, maybe this isn't related to business for you. Maybe you're somebody that wants to, I guess I'm gonna use the relationships again just because something that I understand very well is you're somebody who wants to be able to make more friends in the future, right? Obviously, you can't outsource that. It's got to be you present. You've got to be the one to make those friends. But maybe you're gonna get better at understanding nonverbal cues. Maybe you're gonna say, there's two ends of the extreme. Just like we have somebody who sits in his room all day, he's not good at making connections, and then somebody who is outside always trying to form new connections, trying to get good at talking to people. They're gonna form these nuances. It's after a year of doing this hard thing, looking back and being like, oh my God, I remember when I used to talk to Jack all the time, and he used to look all over the room when I was talking to him. He wasn't interested. I wish I would have known that. But the thing is, it's better that you know this now and you've gained the skills so that you don't have to deal with it anymore, as opposed to we all know the person who is, I'm not gonna say not good in conversation, but just doesn't know how to take a hint, right? They're talking to you and you're like, hey, okay, I gotta go, and you're turning away from them, and your feet are facing the other way, and you're kind of looking the other direction. They're like, no, 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 yeah, wait, 1 second, I'm almost done. You're like, no, like I gotta go. Some people don't understand that, so it's like, would you rather be the person to look back and be like, oh my God, that was such an embarrassing mistake I made, or be the person that is still doing that thing without knowing, right? You want to be conscious. You don't want to be the person that's like clueless. You want to be the one that looks back and says, "Oh my God, I did this thing that was so stupid of me," because that shows progress and it shows that you're doing something. And if we're using this example for this episode of action precedes action, that means you are taking action and you're getting better at this thing because you're putting in the effort and the reps to begin with. Now, in that quote, action must precede action, that is a law of nature. Nothing starts itself. That third line, nothing starts itself, is so interesting to me because I remember when I was writing my book, I was procrastinating a little bit and I was like, okay, I want to get this thing done first, then I'll start writing it, and then I want to maybe take this angle. And I was like, no, no, no. I remember reading this quote at the perfect time. I was like, nothing starts itself. I'm just going to start. I'm just going to write a couple pages. So I did that, and then I did it again, and I did it again. And before I knew it, I had 50 pages. And before I knew it, after that, I had 60 pages and 70 pages and 80 pages, right? So you look back and you're like, wow, oh my God, that's kind of crazy how that happened. Like it's so weird. You can't really put it into words. I just did it. I started it, right? So if there's something that you might be procrastinating, I don't mean to be the person to make this sound simple because I know sometimes it's not simple. However, just start it. You might have problems procrastinating. You might be somebody who always just do a million different things. But if you start something for like 5 minutes, you might have an easier time and it's less friction for you to have to keep going as opposed to looking at it and being like, oh, this is big bad monster, when in reality it's something that could take you 10 minutes, right? As a college student, I relate to this because I say, oh my God, I don't want to do this assignment, right? It's just, oh, and I spend so many days thinking about it. And then after 3 days pass, I'm like, you know what? It's due in 2 hours. I got to get this done. And then I get the assignment done in 30 minutes. And I'm like, wow, I just spent 3 days. I just spent 4 days thinking about this thing that I got done in this short amount of time in 30 minutes. Like, that's crazy, right? If you're somebody listening to this, I want you to think about whether it's different aspects of your life or maybe one most important aspect of your life that you want to get better at in the future. If you want to be this amazing person, if you want to hit these goals, you need to reverse it. It's very important that you know these goals first and then you can look back on it. But the biggest thing is taking action. So many people have ideas, right? Ideas are worthless. Everybody's thought of the flying car, but nobody's done it. So guess what? The person that's going to be the first to make a flying car, nobody's going to say, or actually maybe people are going to say that, oh my God, no, I thought of that. Like the way the doors are, one time I made a picture, I drew it and I posted it. You stole my idea. No, he executed. And execution is the highest form of leverage. That's all you can do. You've got to put in the reps, you've got to put in the time. And the best part about it is you look back on it months later, weeks later, years later, whatever it is, and you're like, wow, I'm making progress. And for me, I'm willing to work as hard as I need to get to where I want to go. And with that mindset, not only am I realistic because this can take me another 40 years if it needs to be, but It also allows me to understand that I am in control of the outcomes and the results I get. The world does not owe me anything, and nobody in the world is in control of what I get except me. I totally believe it. And I think speaking to pretty cool people on my podcast has allowed me to adopt this principle as well, that there have been so many people in worse situations than me that have done better for themselves. And it's not because they won the lottery, it's because they worked their asses off every single day. And those are the people I look up to. And people that I strive to be like. Guys, I thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope something I said in here was valuable. If you're into podcasts about how the top 1% of people think, listen to some episodes, Abundant Thinking, or if you're watching this on YouTube, Elon G. I've had some pretty cool conversations, like I mentioned. Scroll through some, see if any pique your interest. Leave me a comment, shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want. I'd love to help you guys out in any way that I possibly can. My book is back there, ordered in the show notes as well. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. We've got some pretty cool episodes coming along. So, yeah, peace.